What's up everyone, this is Joey, Blush Response, and welcome to my top 10 Gear of the Year list for 2024. Quick note about this list. Generally speaking, I base this around things that I use, but I also want to make it about new things that have come my way, because if I talk about the things I use most every year, it's going to be the same few pieces of gear every year: Rhythm, Octatrack, Eurorack, whatever. So I try to keep it new things that I encountered that I ended up using the most. Keeping that in mind, I want to say big thank you for all your support this year. This was a crazy one for me. So many videos, lots of live gigs. It was almost overwhelming. I feel like I took on way more than I could chew and had trouble keeping it all together, but it came through in the end. If you saw me on tour on solo dates or with Frontline Assembly, thanks for coming out. If you picked up my new album Sprawl, big thanks on that. If you picked up the compilation on my label Megastructure, Sound on the Fringe, thank you for that. I'm really proud of Sprawl, and I feel like it was a perfect distillation of the vision I've been trying to make for Blush Response as a project for a long time now, as well as Sound on the Fringe. I think really showed the mission of my record label, just about bringing the most impressive, innovative, whatever sound explorers to the front. So thanks, and if you haven't checked those out, they're both up on my Bandcamp, and I've got a couple gigs coming up. December 20th, I'm playing here in Berlin a live set for a fashion show for this designer Selva. The info's here. And on the 28th, I'm doing a DJ set in Milwaukee, Wisconsin for Drop Bass Network for an early New Year's party. So check me out there if you can make it. Moving on to the list now. First one up is the Earthquaker Devices Life Pedal. This has become my favorite distortion pedal ever since I got it. I use it on all kinds of stuff: synths, guitars, drums, what have you. It just sounds amazing. I love the richness of the tone, and I feel like it has a warmth to it. It doesn't get like a brittle, harsh high end in any way. I've used it so much now, and it's just totally awesome. It looks beautiful, it sounds beautiful, it's everything I would want from a distortion pedal, and it's got a fat tone to it. Next up is the Clavis Grainity Granular Analog Filter. Super cool, innovative design from Clavis. It blew me away in the demo, and I've been using it a lot before and after. It's just cool, it's unique, there's nothing else like it, and as a result, the sounds are really special because you can't sound like that anywhere else. It's so cool, and I look forward to using a lot more in the future. Next up is the 4MS Meta module. This module seems to be very divisive for a lot of people. They say that it is against the concept of modular, and I want to ask some questions to that. What is the concept of modular? What is the intention of modular? Because when modular synthesizers came out in the 1960s and 70s, they were about creating the future of sound. And here you have a device that is inherently futuristic. It can load entire packages. It can be a single module. It can be a set of modules. I found so much use for it, and it works as a utility module, as a voice, as an effect, as a patch. It's just so cool. I don't see why anyone would really be against it. It does require a bit of menu diving, but you have a lot of controls. It's way more hands-on than something like an Ornament in Crime, and I'm using it all the time. I love it. So it's going to stay in my system forever. Basically, if I was to build a desert island system, that module would be in there just because it is so useful in so many ways. Next up is a double entry from Game Changer Audio, the Motor Synth and the Plasma Voice. Game Changer Audio, I have to say I've become a big fan of this company. When initially I was skeptical because of their name, because I was thinking how much of a game changer can they actually be, and honestly these two products are insane. The Plasma Voice is just one of the most unique voices of any type of synth I've heard ever, with that plasma coil tube inside of it and the cool digital synthesis algorithms. It's up for debate whether they're samples or algorithms, but whatever they are, I don't really care. What I do know is that it sounds cool, and I've been using it all over new stuff. And then the Motor Synth, something which on paper seems like a gimmick. Okay, they use drone motors to provide waveforms, actually ends up being completely unique and cool. Does the synthesis engine go the farthest? No. But the R&D required to innovate, obviously it's very high priced. It creates something very special sounding. It's got a huge raw sound. When you do crazy pitch sliding stuff, it sounds like nothing else. It's got massive earth-shattering sub-bass. I like the DCO engine with the wave folder. I like the distortion. I like the filter. Overall, I just find that it keeps fitting into my music very well, and I'm super impressed with it more and more as I use it more and more. It's super cool. I love it. If I was to start a small setup, that would be in there for sure. Next up is the Frap Tools Brenso, which I'm going to submit is actually my favorite complex oscillator. I think it has, in terms of features and sound, of all of the ones I've tried, it is the one that I enjoy the most because the wave folder is dynamic like the DPOs. It doesn't sound like the DPOs, but it can mutate in a lot of different ways like the DPOs can, which I would say was the DPO's killer feature beyond its own sound, because there's nothing that sounds like it. And then you also have the best FM implementation of any of these oscillators. The through zero FM in it is incredible, and the fact that you can through zero FM both oscillators against each other and create just incredible sounds. I was playing live with it for a long time, and it sounds really, really great. I look forward to using it way more in the future. It's just perfection for me. Next up is the Novation Peak. This synth has become like a complete workhorse for me, for bread and butter sounds, for weird sounds, whatever. It just has a beautiful overall tonality to it that no matter how hard you push it, no matter how ugly you make a sound, it always sounds beautiful and pleasing to the ear. And I mean that in the best way possible. I don't have to spend time clearing out harshness or whatever. It just sounds fucking great all the time, and it has the best reverb I've ever heard in a synth. My only complaint with it is that the FM depth doesn't go as far as I would want it to. It could go further, but between the wavetables, the filter, everything, and the hands-on control, its interface is one of the best I've used for that type of synth. It's just awesome. I love it to death. I've used it on almost every track since I got it, and I'll be using it a lot more in the future. Next up is the Heimbach and Joranalog Collide 4. This is a bit of a more recent acquisition, but in general, it's a very impressive voice and collection of features and modules within one module that brings new ideas through uncommonly used things. You have a variable bandwidth bandpass filter. You have the lock-in amplifier. You have the incredibly powerful preamp that can distort like crazy with a 30 dB boost. You have the oscillator with through zero FM, which sounds perfect. It's awesome. It leads to unexpected sounds as a processor and as a voice, and I'm going to be using it a ton in the future. Next up, Elektron Digitone 2. This should be an obvious thing for me. I'm an Elektron fan. I've worked with them many times. The Digitone is one of my favorite synths. It was one that I would never sell, barring some kind of significant upgrade. And here's the Digitone 2, exactly with that upgrade. Do I think it could have more new stuff and more new ideas? Yes, but it's a 1.0 firmware. There's a lot that could happen. Think about the rhythm and how much they changed that over the years. I see a lot of room for growth and improvement, and already the core is great. I have zero complaints about what it already does. I just want more because it's already so good. And it's the Digitone in general, the series, is something I've used forever and will continue to use forever. Next up, and this is my new mainstay favorite sequencer, is the Oxy One. I've used this all the time live in the studio since I got it. It's amazing. It is the best sequencer that I've used on the market. I haven't used the Score Papax. I haven't compared them, and I'm sure maybe there's another sequencer or two I'm forgetting, but of the ones I've used, this is my favorite, and it is the one I use all the time with my modular, with MIDI gear, with gear through USB, with VSTs. It works flawlessly and can sequence all these together at once without breaking a sweat. I did a jam recently where I had it controlling drum rack, my modular, my ARP 2600, the Elektron, Digitone, and the Quantum all at once, and it was just flawless. And it was so cool to have that all right in front of me. And with the modulation, the random features, like, it is an amazing sequencer. If you don't have one, go for it. It is my #1 sequencer right now. And finally, the top spot, which beat out everything else, is the Forge TME VIC-X. This is the most forward-thinking voice ever made in Eurorack. There is nothing like it. It's like plates on crack or something. It is so far beyond. I've used it in the studio, live as a solo artist. I brought it on the Frontline Assembly tour, and there were moments during sound check where no one would be doing anything, where I would just bring up the Vic and start droning with it and tweaking just to hear it on a big PA, and it is so impressive sounding. It sounds wild. I've brought several people over to my place just because they heard me talk about the Vic and they wanted to try, and every single one of them bought one after using it. It is that special, it's that impressive. It is the best voice in Eurorack if you want futuristic sound. It can go from aggression to raw analog kind of stuff to weird Autechre-ish IDM sound design with the frequency shifter and the FM and the wavetable. It's just so incredible. The guy who made this, Fletcher, is a genius for making this voice. I look forward to anything this company will make because this is such a great entry. It's unbelievably cool, and it's all over my new stuff. So, forward to me VicX for the #1 spot. Thank you everyone for your support this year. More videos to come as always. If you haven't already, check out my album, check out my Bandcamp, check out my label, check out the affiliate links if you want to support, like and subscribe, check out my social media, and I'll catch you next time. Happy holidays. Peace out.